Hey folks, welcome to a new series that I'm going to be doing, and I don't know exactly if it's going to be a weekly or bi-weekly series, but I'm simply going to call it Painting Minis with Sam. And I figured since I've got this little bad boy here that I'm needing to put together and paint, so I might as well make some videos while I'm at it, right? I am not a professional painter, not even close, but I do enjoy painting. So I hope that this will be useful to you. I was watching Breakfast this past week, Board Game Breakfast, and Rob Oren inspired me to start this video series. I am in no way trying to compete with him. He's a great guy, he does great work, and you should watch all of his videos. But I figure, why not have more videos of showing different ways and different methods to painting minis that might help you guys kind of get inspired yourselves to go ahead and give some of your minis a paint job just to kind of bling out your games a little bit more. I figure the more the merrier. So I'm not trying to compete with Mr. Oren, not even close. Here we go though. I'm going to start this series painting these little guys right here. These are the Retributors from the new Age of Sigmar set from Warhammer. And I'm going to be starting with these guys. I've already assembled them, and we'll see how it goes. All right, now first step in painting is basing your miniature. This is what your miniature is going to look very similar to. Now some people paint the bases first before they put them together. Some people even paint before they actually assemble. I never found that to be efficient because I always found myself having to go back and touch up where the glue kind of dried weird or what have you. So maybe I'm just bad at it. I don't know. But I always assemble all of my minis first, mainly because I'm really only concerned about what people are going to see. And I always go with a black primer because of the style that I use. I do not go out and buy the more expensive cans of primer that the hobby stores will sell you. I usually just go to Walmart or something like that and buy a good old Rust-Oleum that it's a flat black, so it's a very good primer coat. I've never had any problems with it. So just make sure that it is a flat or a matte finish. I usually go with black because I use a dry brushing technique for most of my painting, and I feel it works very, very well, hiding those crevices and shadowy parts of all the models. Beyond that, I usually take a shirt or something like that to cover the table that I'm spraying on, and then I get a box that you know, just one of those big throwaway boxes when you buy a piece of furniture that you have to put together, or an office chair or anything like that. Something that's big enough that will catch most of the extra spray that goes out into the air. And then I usually do try to make sure I'm in a well-ventilated room with a ceiling fan and that type of stuff, so the fumes don't get to you very well. So you always give the can a good shake before you start. Get those metal balls in there working well. And when you're spraying, you want to make sure that you're spraying even coats. Don't just lay on it and that kind of thing. You want to do, I usually do very short bursts that cover well, but don't leave a lot of extra paint on the model. But you still want to cover the model, so you'll see that in just a moment. So remember, short, quick bursts that cover well, but don't leave a lot of gloppage. That's not a word, but it is now. On the model. So you let that go for just a little bit. I know you can probably barely see them now, but that's okay. Now it looks very shiny as it's going on. That's just because it's still wet. So don't worry about that. Once it dries, you'll see that it has a very flat or matte finish. Now the good thing with these Rust-Oleum flat paints is that they usually dry pretty quick. So you can manipulate the models with very little. So usually I just go ahead and put it down and see how there's a lot of on the back side here. So we're going to get these to where we can paint the back sides. And again, just short bursts. And if you can see gray plastic, it means it's not hit yet. So just do your best and cover it as well as possible. Again, short bursts are the best way to do it. Now these might look like they're fairly well covered, but if you just tip them down real quick, you'll see very quick that there is a lot of gray in there still, and that's just because there was a lot of things that were blocking that spray from coming in. So what we usually do is I flip them down to one side, and again, short quick bursts. Just get that black into all those little crevices so that it gives a nice cover there. And once you get that side done, you can kind of give it a flip, and you'll see that there's even more as it's turned over again. And so now, again, like I said, short, quick bursts. You're not looking to put a whole lot of paint on there, just a little bit, and that should do the trick. And so then after they have dried a little bit, I usually go ahead and pick them up and give them a final inspection. And usually when we're doing this, we're trying just to make sure that we got good coverage. But as you can see, we did get good coverage, and on top of that, all that detail is still there. And that's what we're really looking for as we give that prime coat. We don't want the paint to glop up too much. We just want it to cover that gray plastic and then give all that detail that's still there. So now that we're done priming, we can go ahead and go to the painting. All right, now as you begin, you're going to want to have all of your materials out here as openly as possible. A mug of water or a cup of water or bowl of water is always good because it'll help you thin out your paint a little bit, and which makes it last longer. You don't want to thin it out too much because then it'll be just too runny and it won't stick very well. But you want to have all your paints out here. You want to use a mat or something like this, and this is just a 99-cent little poster board thing that I got from Walmart. So again, we're not we are sparing a lot of expenses because quite frankly it's just not worth it to buy you know, something that's more expensive. Maybe you do it more often, and that's fine. So I'm not downing people who buy the more expensive stuff. For me though, I like to keep it cost down to a minimum. So these little poster board thingies are what work for me. So as we begin here, all of these guys, what I would recommend that you do as you paint models is do a complete squad at a time. I know other people say that you should not do that. It kind of slows you down, but I think an assembly line approach to painting gives a more uniform look to all of your models. So this is one squad, so I'm going to do all of this on one go. Hopefully it won't take that long, and of course I'm not going to have you stick around for the whole thing. Just give you an idea of what I'm doing. Okay, so first off we're going to go with the base color here, and of course these guys are covered in armor, so we're going to go with a Retributor armor color that Games Workshop recommends that you do. You give it a good shake before you open it, and then once you open it, it's good to go here. What I usually try to do is get a good glop of paint on the brush and put it on the palette. All right, so we get some to work with here, and give a dip in the water here and thin it out just a little bit, not too much though. You take your first model, and again, you're with my dry brushing technique, I'm not looking to cover everything. I'm just wanting to give that armor the look that it is so desiring, and so I'm going to go very light, and it's going to cover most of that armor, but it's going to keep some of that stuff from being covered so that it gives that appearance of being worn, having things around it. Now again, there might be some people out there that are professional or more experienced painters, and you might be going, what is this guy doing? He's making a mess of these things. Well, again, I am not claiming at all to be a professional, but I like the way my models come out, so maybe other people will enjoy it too. Okay, as it begins to run out, you just want to fill up your brush a little bit more, pull some of that out, and go right back to it. Okay, and as it begins to fill in there, you see that you can still see all of the nice little detail that's on that model, but not all the crevices have been filled in, and that's what we are looking for. We're not looking to cover all those crevices. We want some of that tarnish to show, but at the same time, we do want to give the appearance of having that armor on. Now, the reason I like doing dry brush is because it saves me the time of having to do, you know, an earthshade or some other kind of ink on top of the finished model. I really don't like doing it. I've never liked doing it. And so I determined very early on that I wasn't going to go that route ever. Now, you, again, try to find out what's best for you. All right, so he's pretty well covered. Okay, so now that I finished the base coat for this first squad, you can see that I covered it pretty well, but I still left some of those spaces that are just not supposed to be colored very well on each of the models. And that's really kind of what you're looking for. You're not looking for full coverage. You're just looking to give the armor that look of being worn, being there. And still kind of shiny in some spots. You'll see as we go back and detail some of the other places how that will turn out to be better. Now, once we're done with that color, of course, we cover that spot. We give a dip of our brush into the water here, and then try to get all that paint as much as it out as we can. Of course, we're not going to be using this on the next step where we go back and detail some of the things, but we don't want any paint in there staying overnight. So we want to make sure that we work it out into that water. Use the bottom of the cup a little bit, give it a good squish, and now you can see that most of that paint is out, and we just want to make sure that it stays that way. Now, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do, I went ahead and changed to a little bit of a smaller brush because we're going to go into detailing. I do like the flat end brushes though, because I like having a straight edge on one of the surfaces. So we're going to go ahead and do those hammers though, because they are a rather prominent piece of the model. So as we are opening this, we're going to take a little bit onto the brush and then put it down on the palette a little bit. Try to work it into all the bristles, but you still want a little bit of a flat surface there. And with this one, again, you're not trying to cover all the crevices and everything like that. In the hammer, you want to leave those details there. So kind of just very lightly go over this, and you can see that some of those details are still dark. That's what we want, but some of those other faces are being covered very well. So that's kind of what we're looking for here. We want to see the details. We want to see the work, the detail work that those artisans did to make that hammer. But of course, these faces we want to make sure we cover very well. Now, if you notice, some of these edges here have been hit with the gold. That's okay. It's going to be covered by this gunmetal silver that we're applying to it right now. So it's okay to on those base colors to have some over splash or what have you. Just make sure that you keep an eye on it so that you do come back later on and be able to cover it up with that other color that you're looking at putting on that other piece. And again, always try to use smooth strokes so that you don't leave glops anywhere of paint or anything like that. You want the model to retain its detail. All right, so that's one hammer down. Hammer down. So we move on to the next one. And again, this is that assembly line painting that I was telling you about earlier. It just gives a very uniform look to your model and to your army, because all of those guys, they look very similar, and that's what you want them to do. They're an army after all. If you see that your paint's getting a little gloppy, don't worry about just adding a little bit of water to it. That'll make it come right back out smooth and Smooth and shiny. And now that we have those hammers detailed a little bit with the armor, I think that's a good place to stop for this segment. Join me back next time where we tackle some of the other parts of detailing the model. Thanks for watching, folks.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.